What business institutions want more than anything else is more business. How to get it is the question. How can we increase our sales? Or more important still, with competition as it is today, how can we induce the buyer to buy our goods, our merchandise, our equipment or service in preference to others that may be just as good? The direct answer to this question is more effective selling. Every business manager knows that the institution that has the most effective selling has the best chance to make the sale and get the business. It is reasonable to conclude that in order to make the selling effort more effective, we must have a more effective method for the selecting and training of salesmen. Fortunately, such a method is available. Its effectiveness far surpasses that of any other ever employed. We refer to the talking motion picture method. This method is also quite effective when used to inform the buyer about what is offered for sale. Every important item of information about the goods, their origin, methods of production, the many points of advantage, and just how they satisfy the buyer's needs can be displayed in a most attractive and convincing form. When applied to the very difficult task of selecting and training salesmen, the talking motion picture method has many outstanding advantages. We call your attention to three of them at this time. First of all, it makes use of standardized sales talks and demonstrations. These are composed of the most effective selling experiences of the most successful salesmen. Only after they are thoroughly tested for technical accuracy and practical effectiveness are they recorded. Second, by the use of the talking motion picture machine, the training process itself is standardized. Every salesman receives identical training. The salesman sits in a comfortable seat and looks and listens to a master salesman give an accurate and effective sales talk and demonstration over and over again without any variation whatsoever. This makes for accuracy, speed, and effectiveness in the sales training. Third, educators will agree that one of the most important factors in the process of learning is the ability and strong tendency of human beings to imitate what they see and hear in others. By the use of this method of training, this important factor in learning is utilized 100%. Standardized sales talks and demonstrations, standardization of the training process itself by the use of the talking motion picture machine, repetition of the selling act over and over again without any variation whatsoever, utilization of the important factor in learning, these major factors combined with many minor ones make the talking motion picture method quite superior and most effective in the selecting and effective training of salesmen. You are now going to look and listen to a salesman give an accurate and effective sales talk and demonstration.
Mrs. Barnes, now that you've seen the wonderful new Hoover with all of its improvements and the wonderful work that it does, I am sure that you would like very much to have one, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would, Mr. Gross, but I don't feel that I can afford to make the change at present.
I see. Mrs. Barnes, I have here a picture of how the dirt appears at the base of your rug. If you had eyes which could see into your rug, this is exactly the condition that you would find at the base. I am sure, Mrs. Barnes, that you understand by this time that there is a great difference between the Hoover and the present method of cleaning that you're now using. Don't you, Miss Barnes?
Yes, I can see that that is true.
Aren't you convinced, Mrs. Barnes, that only this Hoover can effectively remove this condition from your rug?
Yes, but I really can't afford to make the change now.
I see. Mrs. Barnes, wouldn't you appreciate having all of your rugs in the same fresh, clean condition as this rug, which we just cleaned with the new Hoover cleaner?
Naturally, I would.
I see. Mrs. Barnes, just hold the corner of this little rug, and I'll show you something which you wouldn't believe if you didn't actually see it for yourself.
My goodness, where is the dirt coming from?
Mrs. Barnes, this is the dirt that is at the base of your rug. This is the dirt that is causing your rugs to wear out. Don't you feel, Mrs. Barnes, that you owe it to yourself, to the fine furnishings in your home, as well as to the health of your family, to eliminate this condition from your home?
Yes, but I can't take the Hoover today.
Mrs. Barnes, you're paying for a Hoover, and you're not getting the use of it. You're paying for it in the depreciation on your rug, caused by this sandy, gritty dirt which eats their life away. Mrs. Barnes, you're paying for it in the extra amount of labor, in the extra amount of time which it takes you to do your cleaning without having the Hoover. So, Mrs. Barnes, if you'll just sign our pay-as-you-use plan, I'll be glad to leave this Hoover with you so that you can begin getting the benefits of the Hoover today.
Well, I've always wanted a Hoover, so I may as well buy it now.
Well, thank you, Miss Barnes. Right along here. I'll just leave your receipt with you, Mrs. Barnes, and I'll clean up this dirt and again show you how to use the dusting tools so that you can get the full benefit of your new Hoover.
The little scene you have just observed and listened to will give you something of an idea of what the complete selling act would be like. This scene was recorded by the Escar Motion Picture Company of Cleveland, Ohio, pioneers in the business. The Escar Motion Picture Company is equipped to make any kind of industrial, educational, or commercial motion picture. We can make pictures with or without sound or with color if desired. Through our sales and service division, we can assist you in the solution of any phase of your sales problem. We can check and, if necessary, revise your selling talks and demonstrations or create new ones for you. We can assist you in selecting a better type of salesman for your particular line. We can help you to prevent the salesman who has not been trained for effective selling from spoiling prospects, losing sales, and losing money for you. In a word, we can assist you in that difficult task of selecting and training salesmen for effective selling in the shortest time and at the lowest cost. Finally, remember that what you want is more business. That in order to get this, the effectiveness of your selling must be increased. And that to do this, a more effective method for selecting and training salesmen must be employed. And finally, that the talking motion picture method, when properly employed, meets this very urgent demand. Gentlemen, we thank you.
Hello, everybody. Or I should say, hello, everybody. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show. I am Skip Elsheimer. Motion picture machines can provide wonderful training opportunities for you and for your salespeople. I think that was an eBay purchase. There was a period of time that I was just buying stuff on eBay that nobody else was bidding on, and this was one of them. And it's glorious. It's the company I can't find a whole lot of evidence of other films that they made. It looks like they did make something for the Navy, maybe at one point. But wow, that acting during the vacuum cleaner sales is oof. It's a lot of fun though. Anyways, thanks everybody for joining me today. It is gray and gross outside. It's probably this way on most of the eastern seaboard and in the north, definitely. So I have a variety of different films. This one is from a film collector friend and filmmaker friend of mine, Craig Baldwin, who I've been digitizing his stuff. And so I hope you don't mind me dipping into other people's collections to show you things, because they have a different collection mentality than I do, so they collect different things. And they just don't get shown anywhere, so I figured this is an opportunity to show some films from what we've been digitizing for him. Craig Baldwin, if you don't know, did Tribulation 99, Sonic Outlaws, Mock-Up on Moo, a variety of these kind of experimental documentaries. Really amazing person as well. So here is Eye Fashion. I don't know the title of this film, but it's about eye fashion. And pay attention to how the narrator enunciates.
Many people wear eyeglasses. People who are near or far-sighted, for example, need glasses. 27 million eyeglass lenses are sold every year in West Germany. About every fourth person over 40 needs eyeglasses. The National Health Insurance Program takes care of the cost of the glasses. The production of eyeglass lenses is a highly automated branch of the optical industry. Only a small part of production is still done by hand. Here, pressed pieces of unprocessed glass of selected quality are fastened to the production line with putty. The quality of a lens is determined by its purity, sensitivity to acid, and its abrasive temper. The 3.5 years of training is required to become an optician. Vocational training centers for opticians are located, for instance, in Berlin and Cologne. Graduates of these technical schools are given the title of state-tested and certified optician. Man first used an eye shield to protect himself against the sun, but at that time glass was unknown. Today, Arctic people still use the protective devices of long ago. Lens grinding first began at the time of Dürer in Nuremberg, but correction of an optical deficiency by glasses was recorded in Venice already at the end of the 13th century. The inventor, however, is not known. In those days, a single lens or two lenses were held before the eyes in various types of frames. One began to wear eyeglasses perched on the nose only in the 17th century. The correction of vision imperfections by use of eyeglasses. The German optical industry is known all over the world for its precision. Significant firms such as Zeiss, Leitz, or Rodenstock deliver to all the world's nations. There are many phases in the production of eyeglass lenses, and there are many degrees of near or far-sightedness or poor vision in general. Therefore, only the most commonly used lenses can be mass-produced. Special lenses are also prepared in a special department in this factory. The production of this series is completed. Putty and polishing materials are removed from the lenses in this fully automatic ultrasonic cleansing chamber, which can accommodate up to 50,000 lenses daily. Random sampling cannot be applied in the production and quality control of eyeglass lenses. Each individual lens must be tested. Only after it has passed the strict final check does it receive the company's trademark stamp. After all, a good pair of eyeglasses can often mean the difference between life and death.
So well enunciated, it's crazy. And you can see it was German produced. Yeah, I love it. For a second I thought, well, maybe this is this teaching English to Germans, or is it, I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's fascinating nonetheless. I might at some point try to do research based on the credits. Okay, so got set up here on the film transfer machine, the Telecine, a film that I have, which is pretty great. Big fan of this one. New sounds in music. So enjoy.
This is music that's made up of different sounds. There's no melody or harmony. There are many new ways of thinking about musical sounds.
In 22, you don't have like this. What do you do when I
Yes, I do have some of those in 22, or at least I could. I've got a couple of very thick figures. My last one was with the tritone.
Yeah.
This music is only partly composed. One of the composer's instructions is that the musicians select the order of the sounds, partly by chance, the way a knight moves in a chess game. The squares are then cut apart and arranged in the order chosen. The squares contain only rough directions about the sounds. If the musician is a pianist, he might play this. If he's a percussionist, he may choose these sounds.
But like when I do this, the cluster that's cut away, the sawtooth cluster.
Yes.
I do.
I have just the reverse. You have that in 22?
In 21.
In 21.
And in 22 you have the reverse?
I start off with a thin line, and then I add to that. Something like that I could do. And then it's thick after that. It starts with thin line and then a very thick line continuing.
But it just should seem that like 20, 21, and 22 are really, the same materials being turned around different ways between the two of us. Let's take it from where we started before.
Here is another way of thinking about musical sounds.
Look, the idea is that there's this screen of these three people playing these pitches, clouding these pitches, and the other two have to sort of feel as if you're always piercing that screen more, coming out both sides. Can we try that again?
To some extent, this music has been planned in advance, but the performers are choosing sounds of their own to suit the conductor's signals. Sometimes musicians make new sounds by changing old instruments. Another way of getting new sounds is by making new kinds of instruments. Many new sounds are made electronically. Ordinary musical sounds can be made to sound quite different. New sounds can be produced entirely by electronic means. Here is another kind of new music, in which the composer gives only general directions. These people are both the performers and the audience. They are asked to go out and record interesting sounds.
And as soon as you have them finished, bring them back. Okay. And then we'll process them. Red group should go together. Yes. And yellow and the blue group. Just record your sound. Back to the... Come on.
When the groups return, the composer directs that their tapes be played back to them.
So where did you go? What was the...
As they listen to the tapes, they hold a discussion about what they heard.
What did you get?
Bulldozer.
Bulldozer.
Primarily, gas-run engines.
Everything that happens here is part of the music. Recording sounds, listening to sounds, talking about sounds. Another person is assigned to find interesting radio and television sounds. Changing the speed and loudness of the tape produces new sounds. When the red tape is finished playing forward, the composer directs that it be turned around and played backwards.
And I started hearing the same kinds of things that he had talked about and the same kinds of things that he'd tried to recapture in his music. And you walk into his classroom and you hear the professor speaking, and you hear people coughing and sneezing and paper rustling, and it was like, the whole room became a sound.
This is a music synthesizer, an electronic instrument that can be used to alter sounds or make new sounds of its own. By setting up this series of chance surprises in sound, the composer has allowed these people to think about music and listen to sounds in a new way. Electronic instruments provide one more step in the search for new sounds in music. They allow the composer the control he needs to create any combination of sounds imaginable.
Wow. Some of you really hated that movie, and some of you really loved that movie. I think that's one of the most polarizing films that I've shown. Really, you were either for it or against it. My background, before I started really collecting films, I was kind of in a musical experimental collective called Wiffle Fist, and we would do stuff like this all the time. We would make, usually it was a lot of noise, but we would do prepare piano things, and we would do things with circuit bending and with contact mics and all sorts of things like that. And, would have collaborative things with people from the audience and all that stuff. So for me, it's, it's kind of going back to old home week as far as seeing some of the experiments that they did. And some of it is insufferable and boring and all that stuff, but some of it's, it tickles my ears. Some names that were thrown out. Les Blanc, of course, was a filmmaker who he did some work for Churchill films. He was, but also did some wonderful blues music documentaries and other documentaries, and documented Werner Herzog eating his shoe, among other things. Let's see. People really did not like that. That was really fascinating. Okay. There was a popular radio program in the probably late 40s. Actually, I'm not sure when it was. I know about this program because my mother had a book that was like a Quiz Kids. It wasn't a trivia book, but was like a quiz book, and it had some wonderful kids riddles in it. And by wonderful, I mean really horrible. But here's the Quiz Kids, which was a radio show with a bunch of kids answering questions on radio, talking about the importance of school lunches.
And there their best insurance for a long, healthy life. There are 30 million school children in America, and a lot of them live like this. This isn't a foreign land. These are American children, and they're hungry. Sometimes this hunger is very clearly defined. Sometimes you can't see it at all. Hidden hunger. This child eats enough. The food budget of her family is above average, but not enough of the right kinds of food, and she's hungry. In busy America, many mothers perform many necessary jobs outside the home, but we must never become too busy to feed our children. These kids have left school for the lunch hour. They were given money to buy their noon meal, but look what they've done with it. Here they are, making a tasty snack do for a whole meal. No wonder there's no color in this lad's cheeks. He's hungry. But here in the United States, we're lucky. Our children, none of them need to go hungry. We've got the food. America's farmland is the world's greatest food factory. All these crops must be marketed. Our government's price support program helps the farmer to get even distribution of his produce and a fair price for producer and consumer. When distribution fails, prices fall, and this happens. This is waste. School lunches help prevent it. And by saving this waste, we can at the same time have this. We can only have this if we get together right in our own neighborhood. Here together, a practical plan of sponsorship of a school lunch program can be worked out. And the Department of Agriculture in Washington will help. It will help your community pay for part of the food by reimbursing local sponsors up to 9 cents. Be lunch, a good meal too. Or 2 cents for the milk that kids always need. Once you have started, there's menu planning, purchasing, preparation, and cooking to do. It can be done in a large school or in a small school like this. And the United States Department of Agriculture can supply information that will help you get started and keep going. Going on serving our school children, all of them, whether they can pay or not. It's this food at the right time in the right place that will make our kids better able to answer not only their questions in school, but the questions they must solve in building the future of our country. Well, some for me too. Oh, fine, fine.
So that, again, was a weird little clip. Some collectors, they're fine with pulling out. They'll watch a film and they'll, like, pull out stuff and for whatever purpose. So Craig was doing that a lot. And so we would get things from him, and it would be a reel of, like, I don't know what this is, Craig. I have no idea. There's no, title. There's nothing that we can figure out. So it's entertaining stuff, but it's not how I live my life. I don't like physically clipping stuff. I did that like a long time ago when I was showing films. With Wiffle Fist showing films behind bands, I would cut up some of the films, but now I will only cut up in digitally. I won't actually cut the film unless I have multiple copies of it. This one is more cohesive, and this is made by Progressive Films, which was based in, was it Berkeley? It was somewhere in the Bay Area. And I've shown another film from them, but this one is When You Are a Pedestrian. And this runs, I got caught up in the frenzy of the speed of Rendezvous yesterday, that French film that got me knocked off of YouTube and Facebook by a French company, actually. It wasn't an American company. And I was just like, this guy's racing through downtown Paris, and I feel the danger, and so I'm just going to let this run. In spite of all the warnings that were popping up on my screen. And sure enough, they knocked me off. But this is a measured response to that. This is from about pedestrians and how they can safely cross the streets. in the hopes that little French sports cars are not going to knock them off the road. So, when you are a pedestrian.
Our highways and streets are becoming more congested and hazardous with every passing day. Motor vehicles have become a necessity, and if we are to stay alive, we must learn to live with them. Automobiles have their limitations, however, and there are times when we must leave them and walk. We then become pedestrians, members of a highly vulnerable group who are killed and injured by the thousands each year. This is quite understandable when we consider that a pedestrian is outweighed by about 20 to 1 and is not nearly as durable as an automobile. Responsibility for accidents is about equally divided between motorist and pedestrian. Being right is of little consolation to the pedestrian who is dead or badly injured. Nor does the knowledge that perhaps he, the motorist, was legally within his rights blot out the memory of that sickening moment of dull impact when he hits and kills or injures someone. Pedestrian and motorist both have rights that should be mutually respected. Pedestrians must always cross streets at intersections where the motorist expects him. Wherever traffic is controlled by signals or an officer, follow their direction and do not attempt to cross until the go signal is given. Even then, do not blindly step out into the street until you have checked to see if all cars have cleared the intersection. Occasionally, motorists will fail to see the red light. Others will sometimes deliberately ignore it. At busy intersections, walk and wait signals are used to control pedestrian traffic. The standard 3-light signal used in conjunction with them is to control motor vehicles only. When the green light comes on, the motorist may proceed. This permits the flow of vehicles to turn through a crosswalk before giving the pedestrian the right of way. When the walk signal comes on, the motorist must then yield to the pedestrian. Always keep to the right when walking in crosswalks or on sidewalks. After the wait signal flashes on, the pedestrian will not have time to safely cross the intersection unless he has already stepped down from the curb. On busy thoroughfares, traffic is stopped by the signals only long enough for you to cross if you start out at the beginning of the cycle. Even then, you must not tarry if you are to make it safely. Such haste is not always possible, and the motorist must be prepared to watch out for and wait for the elderly person or the physically handicapped. On extremely wide streets, signal cycles are sometimes set to allow you time enough to only cross halfway and wait on a safety island until the next signal. When waiting to cross, stay on the sidewalk. It is often necessary for a motorist to come close to a curb to safely negotiate a corner. Be extremely cautious at intersections where there are no signals. Motor vehicles tend to move in groups as they travel from one signal to another. When such a grouping approaches, wait until they have passed before attempting to cross. At 25 miles an hour, a car is traveling 37 feet a second, and the driver must have time to stop. Be sure he sees you and is prepared to yield before stepping out. When a vehicle has stopped for you, do not continue across until you are sure there are no others approaching. Many persons have been killed in just such a circumstance. A similar situation arises when a pedestrian tries to save a few seconds by hurrying to cross in front of a bus. A pedestrian must be constantly alert. Look to your left, to your right, and behind you. Being struck down from behind is one of the most frequent pedestrian accidents. The same precaution should be taken when crossing from the opposite direction. A car may be coming up the street behind you and turn into the street you are crossing. When making a turn, the motorist must watch for pedestrians hidden in the blind area caused by the support posts of the windshield. Very often, the pedestrian's forward movement while crossing will keep them in this blind area until you are right on top of them. Pedestrians must not do the unexpected. If you change your mind, do it on the sidewalk, not in the street, where changing your mind may be fatal. The hazards of crossing in mid-block are so great it hardly justifies the time you might save. When walking along roads or streets where there are no sidewalks, face the flow of traffic so you can see an approaching car and step off the roadway. In such a situation, the motorist has the right of way. A motorist must be constantly alert and not exceed a safe rate of speed. There is always a danger zone extending ahead as well as to the sides. The shaded area represents this zone at 20 miles an hour. A pedestrian entering this zone walking at a normal pace would be hit. As speed increases, this danger zone increases in length and width at the rate of 4 to 1. You are driving at 30 miles an hour. Suddenly, a child runs out 90 feet in front of you. You slam on your brakes and stop 7 feet away. But if you had been going just 5 miles an hour faster, you would have struck the child and gone 20 feet beyond. Fatalities among older persons are much higher because of slower reactions and lack of knowledge of the distance covered by vehicles in short spaces of time. It is also the motorist's responsibility to watch out for the handicapped. Rainy or stormy weather requires added precautions on the part of both motorist and pedestrian. The person afoot is concerned with getting out of the rain as quickly as possible. Visibility to the driver is generally blurred, and he cannot stop as quickly on wet or icy streets. Traffic at night is very hazardous for pedestrians. The pedestrian who steps out into the path of a car at night is suddenly splashed with what he feels to be brilliant illumination. It is difficult for him, no matter how often he himself drives a car at night, to avoid feeling that the headlight glare makes him stand out clearly and boldly. To the motorist, the pedestrian illuminated by his headlights is just another object in the midst of many other vague shapes. Dark or neutral colored clothes reflect very little light, so that it is almost impossible for a motorist to see a pedestrian until he is within a few feet of him. If, however, the pedestrian wears light-colored clothing or carries something that reflects light, such as a newspaper, the motorist can more readily see these spots of reflected light. The best rule for walking at night is to consider yourself invisible and walk accordingly. No one in their right mind would deliberately run anyone down, nor does the fact the motorist didn't mean to do it excuse him. If he exceeds the speed limit or is not alert, he is operating a lethal weapon. The laws are very definite about this, and car insurance won't take care of fines or prison sentences. Although a pedestrian may have the right of way, he shouldn't try to take it unless he is sure the motorist is prepared to stop for him. Flesh and bones are no match for a ton or more of steel. Pedestrian fatalities can be immeasurably reduced if both pedestrian and motorist respect each other's rights and walk and drive with consideration and courtesy.
I showed another progressive film that was a bicycle, about bicycling. Hey, just wanted to say thank you for tuning in today. I'm not wrapping it up just yet, but if you like what you saw, you can buy us some coffee, which warms our souls and caffeinates our nervous systems and makes us go through the tedium of splicing and doing all the things that we do to bring you the show. I gotta say, in the comments, this is why I enjoy showing films to you guys, because I learn stuff. And on YouTube, Maynard's Moreland, I'm not sure, it's a YouTube nickname, told me about Marlowe and the Magic Movie Machine, which was a show that was on television in the late 70s, that is about a guy who has a machine in his basement, and he shows educational films. So I'm amazed that I didn't come up with it. But Marlowe has an amazing mustache and has a lot of really great visual effects, which I will work on. I'm not going to have a mustache. Forget it. No. Mm-mm. But yeah, look it up on YouTube. Marlowe and the Magic Movie Machine. I'm floored by this fascinating concept. And if I had some money, I would try to recreate that set. Maybe that's what I can do in the basement once the pandemic is. I'll recreate the Marlowe set. And maybe have a fake mustache that I wear. Anyways, all right. I put together a bunch of TV ads that I have loosely different places, and I hope that I haven't shown these before, but maybe I have. I don't know. These are from the late 70s, early 80s. So here we go.
It's Denver. People get hit with tough colds, so they hit back fast with Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine.
The Denver cold will go through you like a piece of ice.
I get headaches all the way to the back of my head.
My nose runs. The stuffiness that you get in your head, like you feel like you got cotton stuffed in there.
I like Alka-Seltzer Plus because it relieves these symptoms.
Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine. Fast relief for the Denver cold. Fast relief for you.
Try Alka-Seltzer Plus. You would not believe how good it makes you feel.
Very simply, Alka-Seltzer Plus for me works.
When you go for a fling on the flume, is he sitting far downstream?
Get close, get closer.
When you book a cozy little table for two, do you find something has come between you?
Get close, get closer.
Only Certs has flavor crystals and Retsin for great taste and fresh breath that lasts over an hour. When you want to smooch, does she call the pooch?
Get close, get closer.
Judy, got a surprise for you.
Yes, Will.
Crunch and munch.
Crunch and munch? Nuts!
Yes, and popcorn, too. Taste that candy coating. It's not caramel, not a sugary glaze.
That's rich, sweet, buttery. Buttery, that's toffee. That's popcorn and peanuts and toffee with real butter. I like crunch and munch.
Like?
Well, it's hard to say love right away.
Where's Sidney?
Upstairs playing.
Ah, it's a good time to frost my cake.
Someone thinks your cake is pretty good without frosting.
Sidney, you're in trouble. Uh-oh.
Duncan Hines. Our cake's so moist, even unfrosted, the taste comes alive.
He says he couldn't help himself. It's so delicious.
He's right.
Harry.
Duncan Hines Light Deluxe 2 and pudding recipe. So moist and delicious, they might not wait till they're frosted.
Smell that bacon. Nothing can penetrate this stuffy nose.
This can.
Hall's Mentholyptus?
Mm-hmm. With vapor action. Hall's vapor action penetrates deep into clogged nasal passages to help your stuffy nose feel clearer, while Hall soothes your throat to help you cough.
Hey, this is something. The bacon? No, the Halls.
For penetrating relief, get Hall's vapor action. Now in new ice blue, too.
The family gathers, new babies here, and great-grandmother knows it's clear that it wouldn't be home without Hellman's.
At times like this, family traditions are important, like Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. It's the best, the one you depend on to make all their favorite foods taste terrific.
Everything with great-grandma. And it wouldn't be home without Hellman's.
Playing hands and M&M's.
Chocolate candies.
Praying hands and M&M's.
All hands love M&M's, 'cause the milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
Fresh roasted peanut in the center. Milk chocolate and a candy shell. Elated hands and M&M's. Deflated hands and M&M's.
All hands love M&M's, 'cause the milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
M&M's chocolate candies.
Strumming hands and M&M's.
Chocolate candies.
Strumming hands and M&M's.
All hands love M&M's, 'cause the milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
There's a rich milk chocolate center covered with a colorful candy shell. Slapping hands and M&M's.
Clapping hands and M&M's. All hands love M&M's, 'cause the milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
M&M's chocolate candies.
Now this dollhouse is an antique. How can you tell? No Pampers. Pampers? I was thinking of trying a newer brand.
Why? Dryness is what quilted Pampers are all about. Pampers Susan wore when she was born were good, but these quilted Pampers stay twice as dry.
Twice as dry?
Sure. Wet both and wait. Quilted Pampers stay twice as dry. Dryer's gotta feel better.
Sure does.
And that advice is on the house.
Quilted Pampers stay twice as dry as before.
Is sinus driving you crazy with pressure, congestion, mean sinus headache? Want more than aspirin or cold capsules? Take a U-turn to Sinutab, extra strength Sinutab, with the most sinus headache pain reliever per dose without a prescription. 54% more per tablet than standard sinus remedies. Helps relieve pressure and congestion too. Take a turn to relief, a U-turn to extra strength Sinutab, the #1 selling extra strength sinus pain reliever.
Starburst fruit chews, a burst of refreshing fruit flavor for you. Tastes like mouth-watering orange, strawberry too, luscious lemon.
And now, a tempting new flavor, tasty, tangy cherry.
There's a burst of refreshing fruit flavor for you in Starburst fruit chews, naturally and artificially flavored.
When I bite into a York peppermint patty, I get the sensation of being in the snow-covered Alps. Yodelay, yodelay, hee-hoo! Bill Brothers, 1 moment, please. Good morning.
Maxwell House is coffee to relax with. Maxwell House will brighten up your day.
Maxwell House is
please hold.
good to the last drop. Maxwell House.
Relax with the great taste of Maxwell House coffee, always good to the last drop.
I can connect you now. Thank you for waiting.
Good to the last drop. Maxwell House.
Makes Denver people get hit with tough colds, so they hit back fast with Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine.
The Denver cold will go through you like a piece of ice.
I get headaches all.
All right, so that just looped again. Man, those jingles are just rattling around in the cobwebs of my mind, and that Hall's vapor action. Obviously, I feel like this was 70s, 80s. I don't have years on them, and I can't remember where I actually got them. They might have been purchases on eBay or a collector who just had them, but some great stuff in there. And definitely this kind of... I saw this when I was digitizing commercials for Duke's AdView project. I saw this kind of late 70s, early 80s push towards kind of conservative family value types of things. And so I saw that a little bit, that Hellman's had a return back to the good old days of Hellman's mayonnaise. I live in a Duke mayonnaise belt, so we do not like Hellmann's in this part of North Carolina. So thanks again for tuning in today. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I'll be back on Monday. Again, if you like what you saw, just hit like or subscribe or share this with other people. Tell them, like, here, hey, remember that show, Marlowe and his Magic Movie Machine? This guy Skip's doing the exact same thing. And he's showing really annoying films about new music from the late 60s. Yeah, everybody have a good rest of your day. You can buy me coffee as well, and also go to avgeeks so you can see other stuff that we've digitized over the last decade or so. As always, please rewind and love each other, and we will see you again soon. Take care.